All right, y'all. Listen, I'm happy to announce that we finally launched our YouTube memberships. Listen, if you want to support Truck and Hustle for all the hard work that we've been doing over the past 5 years, this is where you need to be. As a part of our memberships, number one, you'll get exclusive access to all of our archive content. Number two, we'll be doing at least one live webinar with one of the guests or somebody else from our network that you love to continue to add value to you and your business. Third, we'll be having exclusive behind the scenes content that we shoot and doesn't, make the final cut. So make sure you go check it out. Get that subscription right now and join us, man. TNH forever. Let's go. All right, Hustle fam, welcome back to another amazing episode. And today we are diving into the deep and fascinating world of supply chain technology with a company that's revolutionizing the industry, Blue Yonder. Marie Jonkman, welcome to Truck and Hustle. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Can you tell us what your role is over at Blue Yonder?
Sure can. Would love to. So I'm the Vice President of Global Industry Strategies for the Logistics Service Provider Division. So that covers APAC, EMEA, Mexico, North America. And to make it distinct, transportation, warehousing, e-commerce, control towers, all the things that you talk about in addition to inventory, I cover and serve our clients.
All right, amazing. Let's get started. Can you share the origin story of Blue Yonder and just kind of explain why your company matters to the supply chain?
Yeah, when I was an operator, Blue Yonder was known as JDA several years ago. You may have heard the name through acquisitions as they've grown. It's looking at to where they had a great planning organization, but also through acquisitions added transportation and warehousing as a history. We really put together our planning suite of products in addition to our suite of execution products to brand and come up with Blue Yonder today. So we have over 3,000 customers that we serve. We really run the full gamut on a unified platform of planning as well as transportation, warehousing, and really optimizing that through end-to-end decisions. So really great company, serves retail, serves logistics service providers, as well as manufacturers in the space from planning all the way to execution.
I love it. What would you say is the defining moment in Blue Yonder's journey that truly solidified its space in the supply chain industry?
Yeah, when I look back, and I was a user of the product as a young kid in supply chain solutions and engineering. So a lot of the JDA, I2 and I2 modeler products I used and I was really proud of. But when I look back to when Duncan joined the organization about 6 weeks later than I joined, he really stood on our Icon stage that year and talked about a unified platform and vision. What he brought to light is we have all of these great planning customers, planning inventory, planning labor. But then we have all of these execution products also running. You look at warehousing, you look at transportation, you look at all these decisions and data. There's a way to bring that together on a unified platform and insight and start to bring more synergies with data-driven decisions to our customers. So that was a defining moment for me. Every 3 to 4 months, even though our clients were there, I look back to that video from him and really look at laying out how supply chain disruption is changing the world, whether that's labor, sustainability, weather, and all this data and people moving and trucks and hustling. You need to bring that together and we need to be smarter. So I would say that was a key moment for me being newer in this company.
I like how you put that trucks and hustling in there. I caught that one. How has the transition from JDA software to Blue Yonder shaped the company's vision and operations?
Yeah, so as I kind of mentioned on that Icon moment, when we were bought by Panasonic, he had a bold vision, Duncan, as a whole, and really looked at not just the planning products, but the execution products, and then looking at all this great machine learning and AI that we have. How can we do more for our customers to meet their needs? So we really dove in with a new executive leadership team of seeing how can we bring more insights to our clients? How can they drop more money to the bottom line? How can we look through these labor shortages, right? How can we plan transportation better? Really started to hone in on that decisioning, that visibility, that machine learning and AI. The execution and the planning was already there, as I mentioned, but really, how do we get better and use that? right? As an operator, I have good insight in my gut from a former life. But how do you get faster and quicker and more able to bring that together? And I would say looking at Blue Yonder, right? We're heavily rated in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, but really bringing that together of AI and machine learning and letting that take some of the leading advice of a data-driven company. That's when the change has really started to occur and allow us to step out.
Got it. I'd love to talk a little bit about your journey in becoming VP. Tell us about your background.
Yeah. So I think you'll like this. About 20, 25 years ago, I don't want to date myself too much, but, I worked at the Big Brown, loading trucks, only female in the building, to be frank.
Get out. Okay.
In Hodgkins Park, so we can't call the name to it. I went to school and thought I was going to be a lawyer, to be frank, in political science and history. I knew of a role during a summer as a job to start working in transportation at one of our clients, interestingly enough, at a logistics company back in the day, and started brokering freight and running dedicated fleets and really getting into this operations opportunity. So when I talk about that transportation, when we used to do all the brokerage online over the phones, went into warehousing, customer success, I ran all the operations from transportation as well as logistics and warehousing, union, non-union. So when you look at the evolution, looking back, 20, 25 years, I never went to law school. I ended up, just keep moving on my career, getting into retail, fulfillment, looking at distribution, heavy in union contracts, to be frank. And then I joined the private equity world, which was essentially looking at logistics companies, whether we were prepping them to sell or putting them together to add more value. So I got a knock on the door about 2.5 years ago when I was in this space from Blue Yonder. I wasn't looking. I loved my job. And they asked me to come and join a strategy role. They were looking for somebody that knew the business, right? And could talk to the audiences you serve and our clients from a firsthand perspective, because I owned the P&L. So really drawing on that and starting to look into the technology, how to support it, what really adds value to the people in those roles, the P&L owners. And then earlier this year, they actually promoted me as well. So it's been about 2.5 years. It's fun. Tech is fast, which I think I love from being a former operator and a consultant. So I'm getting that high, if you will, off the technology and the product of how to bring value to the clients. So that's my story so far, moving from operations to technology.
What's up, Hustle fam? If you're an owner operator looking for your next big opportunity, listen up, because this one might just be for you. J Trucking, based right out of Albany, Georgia, is a family-owned trucking business that's been in the game for almost 30 years, and they've just locked in a major contract with a large manufacturing company. That means they're looking for experienced owner-operators to grow with. With consistent, dedicated freight, you'll have steady work you can count on. Plus, they're offering competitive rates that'll keep your wheels and your earnings rolling. There's multiple lanes available, so you can choose what works best for you. But here's the catch. This opportunity is going fast. If you want in, you've got to act now. Give J Trucking a call at 678-361-5778 and ask for Abigail or Smita to learn more. I love it. As a leader in a tech-driven industry, how do you balance innovation with maintaining strong connections with your team and clients?
Yeah, there are some times when you need to take a step back and really look at what you're trying to do and who to serve with the technology. You can sit in a box all day long and create all this new innovation in tech. If it doesn't help somebody, if it doesn't help our clients or the people we're trying to serve, what are we really solving? So I take a step back and really look at what are the KPIs we're impacting? What is the efficiency? What's really down the road after this and how it connects? So in a way, a consultative perspective for our clients and our teams to draw the connections and say, hey, here's what I see from my background and experience. Here's what you see as a technology architect or leader. Let's look at the roadmap and not what we're just serving now, but make sure We have sustainability in the future, not just now. Are we creating something that people need and it matters and it helps an ecosystem, right? So meeting with clients, and we have a lot of different types of clients, some are in cold chain, some are in retail e-com, some do specifically, med tech and healthcare, logistics. It's really getting into their level 2 detail and what are their problems and how can we serve them better. You got to speak the lingo and you have to care. So that empathy component and maybe drawing on other people on what you don't know and coming together is really how you make great solutions. It's not just here to sell business. We're all in business, but how do we help our clients do better for their own clients and their consumers? That's when you've really won. It's a full circle, right?
Yeah. I love that. What are some of the major pain points in the supply chain market today?
Yeah, so I look at the major, pain points beyond, I'll speak to North America. We obviously have been in an excess capacity freight recession that we all want to close the book on real soon, folks. As a whole. and that's a joke if you follow the trans industry, but it's not really a joke for a lot of us, right? It's definitely had a damper. We've seen a lot of bankruptcies, and that kind of hurts my heart for people that are owner operators and the leases they've had on hold. But as a whole, holistically, we have disruptions. You have tech stack debt. You have dated technology. You have silos between not just the IT department and the own business. You have silos within, operations in the transportation department or the warehouse. So the list can go on and on as a whole of where the data is not scrubbed. The data is not defined. So it's really bringing that a leg up to say, okay, how can we really bring us on a unified platform and be able to solve some of those pain points, right? You have bills, then to take it to the end line bill. Anybody who's worked in this business, and I have a long time, trying to pay the freight bills and get the detention and the out of scope in advance and bill the customer on time has also been, a trial and tribulation for years. So I've given you like some operator speak, and then as a whole, more looking at the C-suite and, the IT organizations is if you invest in certain technology and it doesn't make those returns, you got a problem, right? So you gotta be careful where you invest. If it doesn't serve the operators across transportation and warehousing, they just have skin in the game for their own P&L, but it doesn't help the company. So you can see it just stacks. And it's getting faster. So being with the right technology company is critical. And we know what you're trying to serve and do to kind of bring that together. I think we all already know what the problems are. This is where technology is able to come together and be the glue is what I see.
I love that. With ongoing challenges like the pandemic and geopolitical tensions, what are some long-term strategies that companies can implement to build more resilient supply chains?
Yeah, I think COVID really exposed this for all of us. And I know when you look at what you're asking me as a whole, you can't be everything to everyone at the same time. So what I suggest and coach clients on is a few things, right? A lot of our clients, for example, in the logistics service provider space, serve the transportation market, whether that's parcel, LTL, full truckload, you name it. But in addition, they might have a brokerage platform and they're looking at, routing and optimization. But as a whole, their control tower is in a whole separate tool for visibility. They're not really having data-driven decisions. As soon as the plan comes out, it changes, right? An hour into the route or 5 minutes with call-offs or labor. So what I coach clients on is an example. If you're trying to go and be a top regional or global LSP, let's get everything on the table. Are your immediate needs, you want to bring cash to the table? Do we have a major labor crisis to solve? Or do we really have some value we're looking to serve, long-term for updating our control tower? We know we're moving well today and we're making margins, but we want to be able to offer more value solutions in the future. How do you do that? So what I see happening quite a bit is Labor going up, 3 to 6% a year, North America, is they typically want to drop some efficiency to the bottom line. How can we do better and have first-time quality? They're really going to this full-time platform unified play to where their drivers pay, the routes, the actual optimization, the rate per mile, the delays at the origin or destination. It's really all coming together on a unified platform, and they're planning better. They're seeing visibility better, and they're not making the same problem every week. They're going to the origin with the data and fixing it. Real easy for the folks watching in your audience. You know, a driver every week that'll sit at that origin site, even though you have a first come, first serve and an appointment, and you got 50 minutes of detention every week. Why do we keep doing that for 6 months and think it's okay?
Right.
Okay, right? It's all first come, first serve, right? But when you look at it, you start to look at the visibility. And I take it a step further because I look at it from an operator. I had visibility, folks, for 20 years. I had it on different screens. I had it on my phone. I had people calling me, talking in brokerage and other areas. But how do we now use technology and harness that data and insight into one location and start to put it together? And it's popping me and giving me heads up. And then how can I maybe use an AI agent on the easy things to start to make some changes or suggestions, and I can see it and improve? That's how you get more business from customers and service levels. So those are the things. It's not this flying high in the sky. It's this basic, here's what we've had coaching clients. Here's where we can take it a step further and improve, that you really start to get credibility with the customers and their end line consumers because they're happy. And your people who are driving those trucks, who are doing those roles, right, have more predictability, which means you're just all around happy as an employer of choice. It's not the rat race. You're basically squeezing it to make it better. So we are a big fan here of coaching our clients, but actively listening and solving problems now and for the future they really have, not the next shiny present, if you will.
Yeah, I got it. How does Blue Yonder tackle the challenge of integrating outdated systems with advanced technology? You just talked about like AI and so forth.
Yeah, no, I can from an AI and a machine learning perspective, but if you take it a step back, really this idea of a unified platform, right? EDI is old school, the vans we used to use. You look at the APIs, whether those data fields are all in the same location as a whole, right? You get all that together in one common place, be able to ingest data, trade data, but have it really dig in from an AI and machine learning perspective. That's why I see it's not just a visibility component that Blue Yonder brings. It's really making active decisioning with that data. We have several clients to where they may have their own TMS, a proprietary system to where they say, hey, the information on the execution, the volume and the line detail, we want you to study. Is there anything you see from an analytics perspective or updates on the shipping origin and or due date that could be changed to make us better? Is there anything you can do to avoid that driver being late every week and make another example? That's where that differentiation on the AI and the machine learning tying together. And again, we almost have 500 patents, really starts to make, yes, the differentiation. Hey, and I'm all for the people and have empathy that do the jobs in the seats because I was one of them. So this is really taking it a notch up to say, hey, let's get on a single unified platform. Let's start ingesting data from multiple sources, and let's kind of validate what we're doing and how can we do it better for our clients. That's where I would say our differentiation and really the AI and the machine learning starts to come in. It's smart.
How do you see these technologies evolve the supply chain over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I would say if you asked me that question 2 years ago, hearing AI on the news or in podcasts or machine learning, they were out there. It was buzzwords, right?
Yeah,
you look at now. Last year with AI, AI agents, or really just talk about process automation, bringing in data through APIs on a platform is becoming standard.
Yep.
Where really the differentiation is coming is not just the AI and the machine learning. If you and I talk 5 years from now, this date, all those supply chain disruptions, active war, weather, driver shortages, disruption patterns, labor, strikes you look at, we will be much more advanced, not just in predicting them, not just being able to plan the inventory better, to plan the execution better. We're really going to have more players connected. So you look at suppliers, you look at transportation providers, you look at contractors, you look at customers. It will be nothing to log online of an app. Maybe people, creating products in their own basement to say, hey, I'm creating these widgets. Let's go ahead and ship this. This automatically is connected to the transportation provider, which is connected to a consumer. So when you look at it, it's not just for the large businesses. It's really becoming, we always said a global trade is there, but it's becoming a connected systems.
Wow.
Everywhere. Right? And people are still going to be engaged, but we're going to look at the exceptions more, and the business is going to get faster. So this connection is not a high in the sky. It's there. And in a way, it's going to allow people to compete on a different level they haven't been able to before, because a unified platform and data and insights levels the playing field also a little bit to get started, versus before it was who had the biggest marketing budget or who had, the largest customer base. Sure, those things matter directionally, but if you can service your customers well in your niche or market and kind of bring yourself up to par with your technology, and it's easier, and say you don't need to have 3 architects on staff, right? There's a self-learning and a self-set it. I think you're going to be in better shape, but it's definitely changing. It's getting better.
For sure. Can you give us an overview of Blue Yonder's products and solutions?
Yeah. So Blue Yonder as a whole has the full end-to-end suite covered. So we'll start at the beginning. So purchase orders and inventory management, whether you're a supplier or a 4PL managing inventory on behalf of a co-packer or manufacturer, we handle inventory, we handle purchase orders. Then you take that gamut through inventory decisionings and planning, whether that's at the inventory or the execution level. Then you can kind of move on into transportation, all modes, warehousing, e-commerce fulfillment and demand, all the way through to a full reverse and returns logistics. So, regular e-commerce returns, full returns logistics models. So really that end to end on a unified platform, right? We pick and choose with what the client's needs and their journey is. But if you would have asked me this question 2.5 years ago, we had some gaps, and through acquisitions and our own development, we were able to fill those in. So pretty exciting stuff, to be honest.
Got it. Can you share a specific case study or anecdote where Blue Yonder solutions dramatically changed or transformed a client's supply chain operations?
Yeah. When we look at kind of logistics companies, whether that would be a transportation company or a logistics company, we look at your level of maturity, right? Who you serve, not just annual revenue, how many employees as a whole, but I'll give a transportation example. Say it's somebody that's a regional parcel or LTL company. Say they survived in that space, they weren't purchased, have really nice, full suite of regional transportation products, $150 million a year, $100 million a year. And they're like, hey, we have some tech debt. We used to have our own control tower. I have a proprietary TMS, but I'm struggling. I'm struggling saving money on my route optimization. I'm struggling saving money on my drivers. We look at your level of maturity versus our products. And in one example, this person was very preliminary, I would say, of being, a forward looker on technology and heavily invested. Typically in those cases, we can throw down 10 to 25% savings.
Oh,
right?
wow.
You start to look at, is there mode shift opportunities? Is there driver idle time you don't know where you could be billing the client and you missed it in your service levels or SLAs? Is it we're using too big of a truck and we can go to a smaller truck? Is it the FAK rating is actually wrong and you're getting overcharged? So you can see I could probably throw at you 50 different iterations. And again, I used all the modeling and the tools, so I know it firsthand, right, of what to really look at to start to drive those costs. So 10%, 15%, really typical. You can look at another component on the warehouse side. We do work with some of the largest logistics global 3PLs in the world to where they use our, warehouse product, our labor planning products in addition to our tasking in the DC. And they have a pretty high level of maturity per Gartner, say a 4, almost going to a 5. With still using that machine learning and a WES system, you can still squeeze out anywhere an average of 5 to 8% when you really get into how the DC set up. What's the shift schedules? Do you have the right people trained and in the right area? Is there a way to change your inventory setup? I ran buildings for a lot of years in my career. It's how to squeeze and really where do you put labor on expedites versus standard shipments? How are you planning? How are you laying out your building? Even in those cases, it's very typical to get a 5 to 8% return. So again, alignment, study what you're doing on the ground, study the data, look at our analytics package, see what we can come up with, and really have some strategic conversations. Those are just examples.
No, I love it. What are some of the most common inefficiencies that you see logistics service providers facing, and how does Blue Yonder address them in measurable ways?
Yeah, I'll give you a really simple area, and I'm not picking on folks, but I'm giving you one of my towels here.
Okay.
So I have a garbage account, Gmail, I've had for years, and I love Gmail.
Okay.
But I look at all the job descriptions, and I look at the customer job descriptions as a whole by role and what you're hiring to do. So I was a transportation planner or an order planner back in the day, and I start to look at, is the person still doing all the work? Are they scrubbing the work? Are they looking at data inefficiencies in the data? What are they doing? Are they faxing still? Are they emailing? Are they picking up the phone? You can kind of start to look at the tasks, if you will, in an efficiency. And again, these are jobs that they're hiring. So I'll study that a little bit, whether it's an existing client or a new prospect we're having a discussion with, just so I can see the lay of the land of what they think they're hiring for and need. And then there's a piece of that comes in technology to where a lot of people may be fearful of these AI agents, right? And the process is being a little bit more automated. But again, each of those customer profiles may have opportunities where you're misbilling or can't bill on time, or you're making the same mistake weekly, or you're short and you're missing your service levels. So there's items in those planning positions. As an example, you can go in and use an AI agent. There's choices on config to where it automatically can make the decision, or you can set up for your planners to go through and look at it. That data is recorded. You can start looking at that data and say, okay, is this in line with our contract and what we were doing? If it is, that's great. And there's a way to kind of squeeze the labor a little bit to where you can put your people on more higher value activities. Or are there other things happening that you need this planning position to look at, if you will, instead of hitting buttons all day, studying the data a little bit more and call attention to the customer to the inaccuracies. So when you talk about very subtle things in planning jobs, in the control tower, in the people watching the operations, it's not just you go from here and turn a button and it's lights out and no one looks at it again. That's not what we're saying. What Blue Yonder is saying in the technology field is you look at those roles. And again, I used to handle, 50 to 30 customers a day, a different freight picking up with all these different problems you're resolving. Wouldn't it have been better to have a way of me hitting the button all day? have that automated. And then as an example, Anne-Marie's attention would go to the detention charges versus what the client will bill versus the gaps. I would look at the orders we didn't fill and why. Was it the warehouse? Was it something that we did in the planning? And let's get those taken care of. So do you see how you're starting to move over to the exception land and do it better to serve the client? And again, no one loves a better fire drill than I do. I grew up with it, but the expectation from the end line consumer, right? And COVID exposed this is I want more, which means you can't keep passing on 3 to 5% a year. Costs keep going up. You have to get better and more efficient. The other component of this is it gives businesses the opportunity to say, what do we want to be? What's our plan this year, our 3 to 5 year plan with technology? Do we need to upsell, cross-sell, and skill set our employees to do more and start to make that navigation instead of you go from here and then no one touches a screen? That's not the evolution of where the businesses are going. There is still engagement in that model. So that's where I see a lot of the customers out of the gate think you're going from this to no one ever touching it again. And you can in some cases, but that's not really where it's at. Where it's at is you go on a journey. We call it a composable journey of changes as you kind of navigate and change what your roles are and what you're asking people to do.
Got it. I love it. I love it. So we just now kind of talked about the cost savings. Aside from that, how does the Blue Yonder solutions help companies boost satisfaction and customer satisfaction and brand reputation?
Yeah, so take cost savings out of it, and I agree. When you look at logistics companies, right, you're picking up from clients, you're delivering to clients. We're delivering for big brands, consumers, picking up dry, cold milk, mixed goods to actually go to a production plant to make a run, right, to ship for a promotion pack. All of those little nuances I told you about, if they don't happen and they're dramatically delayed, it impacts the online retailer and it impacts you and me on their doorstep and in the restaurant. I'll give you a real easy example to make this simple. Don't you hate it when you go to a restaurant and you planned and you wanted a night out and they're out of this?
For sure.
This brand, oh, we didn't get the truck in. Oh, I'm so sorry. This person called off. We'll take care of you. It's simple things from a service perspective. This is what we say we're going to do. At a bare minimum, we serve at this minimum you expected us to do, right? If you can rise to the occasion, and where the value comes in for logistics companies is really you rise to the occasion and say, hey, customer, this happened 500 times last week. We met our SLAs at 99.5%, but here's the other 100 opportunities, and 87 of those, by the way, we just went ahead and took care of, but we wanted to give you some insights. Those are things, when I was an analyst, I would draw through data for days and mining and come up with on why as part of QBRs on what we did to add more value. Right now, at your fingertips.
Got it. For companies who are hesitant about the upfront investment in supply chain tech, what will be your pitch on the ROI that you could expect with Blue Yonder?
Yeah, I'm asked this question quite a bit, and I know I work here, but I'm pretty proud of this company, and here's why. I look at it from, a customer success, customer value, as well as an operator's lens. And I think, wow, when I used to run multiple warehouses or, hundreds of trucks a day, it wasn't just the efficiency and how to drive cost, right, and get better utilization of those trucks. It's a little bit more than that as a whole. Sure. We had maintenance, we had leases that would run over, we had, driver increases on hours, on just contract negotiations for pay. You're going to have that. That's a cost of doing business, regardless of what business you're in. But when you look at your book of business and you look at your book of business with your clients, I mentioned this earlier, costs continue to go up. This is nothing new. We've unfortunately been, in a deep inflationary cycle. We've been really working to get down. Not all of that can be pushed through to consumers. I know all of us, whether a business owner, an online consumer, are feeling some pain. You have to look at and make your bet, as I started this call. What do we want to be in 3 to 5 years? We know what we need to do today. We know where the keggers are growing for investment, right? Whether that's retail, that's healthcare logistics, that's cold chain, that's warehousing, really being forward thinking. You have to budget and put some technology money aside for investments. The leading people, and I'll talk to the Armstrong and Associates top 50, whether that's in North America or globally. The lighthouse or the forward-looking companies, small or large, right, are looking for a few things. They're looking to get bought, or they're already leading in the market to say, hey, I'm not going to be the cheapest, but I'm going to have reliable, quality, almost premium service, and here's how I'm going to do that. To be frank, you can have the best operations and customer service and leadership team. If you don't invest in the right technology, whether it's AI, machine learning, pick an avenue to start on a journey, you will be left behind.
Yeah. What sets you apart from your competitors?
Yeah. And again, I have been, a private consultant on some of our key competitors. There is a lot of room in this space. But when I look at each product, and again, we don't want to just look at the silos and compare products, and we could do that and have a different conversation. When you asked me about Duncan and his vision 2.5 years ago when he started and laid out this platform unified approach, whether you have your own proprietary technology or we're hoping, a mixture or buy all of ours is one thing, right? But it's really honing and coming in to say, okay, you can have the greatest WMS. And again, we're rated on all of these. And our planning system and our transportation system is world-class, and our modeling system. I think what sets us apart is those P&Ls from operations, from planning, from transportation on an end-to-end platform is not just visibility. The differentiation is the active decisioning the machine learning and AI can do among those operations, right? We can all plan a great plan and check the boxes. I've done that job and go through it 17 times. And here's the promotions. Here's the forecasts. As soon as you sit set and that stuff's produced off the line, right? And that heat tunnel runs and we get it and a transportation provider picks it up, that truck can catch on fire. That truck can be delayed. There can be a strike. What do you do now? So it's having options in machine learning, calculation, and AI to start to not just look at history and patterns. It's looking at leading indicators in motion as well, right? Telematics, data on the truck moving, product inventory, time calculation. So I could sit here. You can see I was a former operator, start to go through,
Sure.
pulling that stuff together and saying, hey, this is something you might want to look at. Here's another easy example. We all knew weather in hurricane season, right, would come, unfortunately, at the end of the season, starting a little bit in September, all the way through the end of November, beginning of December in the South, right? There's growers. They're trying to get, food to restaurants, fruit to, all the restaurant quick services, what have you. There's a way to plan differently in how you buy and where product comes from, whether it goes on the rail, do we need to plant differently, really starting to get into all that data to say, we expected, unfortunately, a hurricane to come. how can we plan and maybe do this different? Did we plan the labor to pick off the orchard at the right time? I'm all for peak season. I'm all for the height of the produce. Is there stuff we can do a little bit differently to where we don't just go back into the restaurant and say, sorry, the strawberries and the romaine lettuce were out of, there was a hurricane. We have this instead. I'm not saying AI and machine learning can eliminate all of it, but we can get better and we can do things differently. So that's where I think the glue, and I look at Blue Yonder, it's the AI and the machine learning, which they've had a really, really long time. They've been in that business, especially machine learning, for a really, really long time, have demonstrated ROI for customers year on year. You add the AI component on a unified platform, I'll be frank, it really starts to allow us to step to the side and stand out.
Yeah. Customer centricity is a key differentiator for Blue Yonder. Can you share an example of how listening to customers led to an impactful innovation?
Yeah, I have the pleasure, 2 to 3 times a year, we have customer councils. So we call it our customer advisory board and a technical advisory board council. And I lead one of our customer advisory councils for 3PL and logistics space. So of course we get in the main room, we hear from the ELT and our leaders, and here's what Blue Yonder's doing. It's invite only and it's great. The real fun comes when you sit in the room in the breakouts with the operators and I do and read it and say, hey, what did you hear? What are your thoughts? Right? And that's when the real operators start to come out and I lead that council. It's like, hey, this is great. Have you thought about you could use it this way as well for the agents and the thought? Or I appreciate the sensitivity to the labor, but have you thought about maybe doing it this way, right? And I have the pleasure to go back and kind of listen to this, talk back and forth, share stories to say, hey, let's go back to our leadership and product and others and say, you know what? There's a different way to look at this, or here's what they're asking and how. So that's where that collaborativeness and having great customer communications and stories and working together, it's not just the tech and we're telling you, it's a two-way street to say, here's our vision. Here's what we believe it can do. This is what we've seen in the, in QA and in some of the customer case studies. What do you say? And we can come up with co-innovation or development together to where it can really serve maybe some more areas we didn't think about. So we have those circles of trust, those innovation centers, if you will. You don't just want a bunch of tech people in a room creating product that doesn't help anyone, right? You want to have that two-way street. This is how we see the technology and in the innovation and how it can help your industry, warehousing, e-commerce. What do you see? What's your pains? And really come together. So when you hear Blue Yonder has a new release coming out, it's like, oh, I was already in the lighthouse for that and helped adopt it, right? It causes that relationship to mature that much faster and have open, candid conversations too. So that's kind of the fun of this job, to be frank.
Blue Yonder recently announced the acquisition of One Network Enterprises for $839 million, aiming to create a multi-enterprise supply chain ecosystem. Can you tell us more about that, the vision behind that acquisition?
Yeah. That's a really fun one. I've been engaged with for a while now. So really fun. You may all know One Network, which is now a Blue Yonder company in the space. Why I was so excited about Blue Yonder acquiring One is it wasn't just the network effect, if you will. When I talk about the logistics companies as a whole, it's not just visibility. It's really looking at the network effect of all of us trading data and intelligence together. But it's the other part I serve is a lot of these large mega global LSPs and 4PLs are looking at ways to tie their visibility across operations and their suppliers and their customers together. So that acquisition as a whole does a few different things for the logistics space. Again, the network effect from a trading partner is there, right? We're all communicating in a network. There's another component to where end-to-end visibility and decisioning. It allows us to take it at the inventory level as well as the execution level and tie it together. A lot of our clients are also looking at the POs that come out, whether it's multi-tier or PO collaboration at the suppliers. After they plan inventory and changes happen before it's shipped, how can we collaborate the logistics company as well as the supplier on a different level so we get it right of what's needed to fulfill the order? So it wasn't just a TMS and an execution play, if you will. It's really coming in from a visibility and a network perspective, tying that together in the logistics space to be able to have our customers and our suppliers talk as well as the end-line customers in a unified approach, but also more succinctly, and then layer AI and machine learning on top of it. So that was a big.
All righty. Now, sustainability is always a hot topic. How is Blue Yonder integrating environmental responsibility into its solutions?
Yeah, so about a couple years ago, we hired a chief sustainability officer. Her name is Saskia. She came from Method and some other companies, a great gal. What we've been doing is looking at our TMS product to start. Are there things beyond, CO2 emissions we were measuring that were already in the product? To be frank, we needed to bring to light as an analytics package for our customers. So in our latest release coming out, beyond that, we're looking at, is there mode shifts that occur to where you're actually saving beyond CO2? Are you saving labor hours? Are you using a smaller vehicle? It's taking that according to the sustainability standards, if you will, and packaging that up in a different way. Believe it or not, we have clients beyond the labor cost savings or, the service levels. They are flipping their configuration on ahead and saying, hey, I know at this point in the game, what are the options in terms of rating if I put sustainability higher at the top and the impact to my labor cost, my on-time service, my destination charges, what does that do? Because this is the most important thing in our gamut. So what we did was look at the configuration, if you will, to say, hey, let's change the config and make it flexible for our customers of what they can put to the top and be able to get that data out and report on it. Because what we've heard from our clients is in our latest release in RFPs is they want to be able to report on that in different and unique ways that are important to them, and they needed more data to do that. We have our own sustainability package, if you will, but a lot of the clients, like they do with tech, right, is they'll take it and pull what they believe and put it together as their own package and go to market. So it's been pretty fun thus far.
Got it. Now, as you expand into new markets, what regions or industries are you most excited about and why?
Yeah. So, my heart is obviously in North America because this is where I was raised and grew up. But as I travel the world and really look just even next door to our border in Mexico, right, we heard, and I think I reported a couple years ago on a LinkedIn Live, we talked about all this cross-border freight. Well, that's nothing new to us. But if we could take a drone right now and go over Mexico, over the border, the amount of warehousing and logistics companies and transportation companies and manufacturing and end-line companies just in Mexico as a whole, I think is coming into their own. So it's really looking at, whether it's, things moving offshore, if you will, from China, or whether that's Colombia or South America, or you look in the Caribbean, believe it or not, on some larger islands, they're also building warehousing larger than we may think to be able to take things from Europe and Africa and other locations and bring it over and do end line assembly and finishing. So what I'm excited about is new places playing in a bigger way than they never would have played for pre-pandemic, right? It's new economies. It allows us to open new restaurants. It allows people to provide for their family, right? It increases cross-border. With that brings a litany of challenges, and that's okay, right? As a global world, we can accomplish anything. But as you look, it's giving opportunities to other countries and continents and states that necessarily just had the same industry before to where they're doing new things, and it allows them to expand for their families. So, Mexico, right? It was more delayed than I thought occurring, but it's really starting to pick up now. So I'm kind of excited about that, to be frank.
Nice. For professionals listening who want to stay ahead in the supply chain field, what skills or technologies should they be focused on mastering?
Yeah, so you can look at this as a business person or as a technology strategist. But if I was rolling out of bed tomorrow, wanted to come into this space, right, there's a few things you would need to look at. And again, I could give you a litany of books and YouTube to watch. Here's what I will say. You need to study a little bit, and you can go to YouTube, you can go to our own website, blueyonder.com. You need to understand what AI is. What is generative AI? What is actually machine learning, and what does it mean? You also need to understand supply chain. Look at inventory and how it moves. What is transportation? What is warehousing? Those are the basics, right? So what is everybody talking about? What's the Internet of Things? What is RFID? What is the blockchain? This is very standard things you can go to several sources to get. What I think is going to differentiate you is not just being able to understand it and talk about the language, is to then go look at different customers in that space that have mega supply chains and see what they're doing. Again, you can go to ChatGPT, you can go to blueyonder.com. We have great customer case stories to say, great. Here was a great transportation company that's 30 or 40 years old and got purchased. How did they do that? Because I want to do that with my own. Okay, let's kind of look at that. I started out, in a cartage company. I want to grow and maybe not be in the LTL space, but how can I start? I want, a fleet of 50 with drivers and deliveries and to do different things. How do I do that? So it's starting to look at those case stories and that insight of what is going on in the world. Here's what I will say. The operations part, and especially for your podcast listeners, they actually have that. It's let's get to the technology terms so you don't hear ChatGPT. What is that? What is AI? What is generative AI? What is machine learning? Right? I know what a route is. I know what a shipment is. I know what detention is. Let me just take my level a little bit higher to say, okay, what's going on? What's the supply chain? And then you can start to fill in with your own operations experience, if you will. Okay, now I need to go and see what this platform is. Is this a brokerage thing? Is this what I used to go on to bid for trucks and, get freight, right? We all used to dial for diesel. That's not what this is. You're exchanging and trading data. What does that mean for my own business? So don't be scared. I mean, the internet is a litany of information, right? To go learn and train and understand. And then the Blue Yonder website was actually just updated as well. Has case stories on tons of different customers in the space to where once you have those basic definitions, you can start to understand, oh, I'm interested in warehousing or trans, how they did that. Here's the other part. This little thing called LinkedIn and YouTube on these podcasts, you need to go find a mentor or two. And I don't mean somebody just to train you. It can be somebody virtual that you admire, and you can start to engage on LinkedIn and read the insights that they put out, not just as an influencer, as an expert in the field, and pick a space and start to read every day. What they're talking about, why they're saying this, how did this relates to your business. You can't be scared. The time is here and it's moving fast. You need to dive in and start a journey to learn more, right? So you're not left behind, right? Like I did. I miss my operations. I miss the people, but this was the right time for me to do something new and different. So I'm a big proponent of people leaning in and learning and surrounding themselves by people that know more than you, so you can learn and grow and change your career if you need to. So it's not foreign to you as the world changes.
I love that answer. I love that answer. If someone in the audience is struggling with their supply chain strategy today, what's one immediate action that you recommend they take?
Yeah, a really simple, basic one. If you're struggling with your supply chain strategy, if you're not measuring anything, and I'm not going to go old school to Excel, but if you're not measuring, you cannot manage anything you do not measure as a whole, period.
Full stop. Period. No, I love that. I love that.
I think I know, I get it. I'm kind of a ride by the gut too, but then I would always check the data to ensure, right? It's data-driven thoughts. It's data-driven decisions. It's great to trust your intuition, but you got to have the data to support it and really see, is there something you didn't think about or know? But if you are not measuring what matters to you, that's in life and in your business, you're already bad out of the gate.
100% right. I love that. What are some of the trends in supply chain that you believe are under discussed but critical for businesses to watch?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's okay. You know, when you look at it as a whole, you know what? The use of AI agents is out there. As I mentioned a little bit earlier today, it can be misleading on what agents can do. Yes, it is a fascinating place on how fast technology is moving. But let's understand the applications we're using agents to do and what you can replace with those tasks to do new roles or futures in your supply chain. So I think what it is versus what it isn't and what it can be is maybe a little bit gray and misunderstood for each industry. So I think that's the first thing. The other component, I think, as a whole, we just talked about sustainability from an option. I think there's a place as time goes on, and I happened to be in London last week, so I can see how London in the UK looks at sustainability maybe in a different lens and how they conduct their lives versus what I see everywhere in North America, and I'm talking generally here. I think there's a way you can drive efficiency, please your customer and your end line consumer, and also have sustainability go with that hand in hand in choices. I think being able to look at data and where you make those choices with configuration will drive your North Star for your own company. I don't think it's you do sustainability and you throw the rest out of the water. I think there's small things that companies can do to have them come together and make better choices according to their own North Star. So those are kind of two that are misrepresented at times, I would say, in the media and out there until they're understood. And again, each company is a little bit different on how they're going to use these strategies. And then to kind of give you a third one as a whole, everybody these days has a platform, right? You used to have VAN, we used to have EDI. I hope nobody's faxing or emailing documents anymore, but maybe, and pulling data off it. And I was an EDI coordinator back in the day, so I get it. But I think being able to have a network with thousands of suppliers and carriers and manufacturers exchanging data and information in a common place, number one, is golden. So we talked a little bit about that, but I think the other component here, and this is our differentiation, is with the data-driven insights, visibility, and decisioning on a platform. We have multiple clients that'll come to us and say, we are in love with our TMS. It could be a competitor, it could be a proprietary technology. And we say, okay, great. Why do you love it? Okay. But we need a unified platform, and we love what you're doing in your analytics and optimization space. Can I go ahead and buy that as a microservice? You actually can. And then they say, hey, can you help me with my platform strategy? We actually can. And this is where this unified platform, this is where data coming from their TMS they're in love with and our analytics package and our optimizer comes into play and says, hey, here's just not a new visibility view. Here's some options you may or may not have looked at for route optimization, parcel rating, shipments, mode ships. You can save X amount of dollars if you ship twice a week instead of 3. Here's an option to where you can ship, packages maybe out of another building if your inventory runs short there. So it opens a little bit. They come for us to this, and it ends up exposing this, and they can configure it to what they want. So that's a little bit of the differentiation and the unified platform. So it's always worth it. To me, go have a free discussion. Why wouldn't you? Right? Why wouldn't you sit back as an executive or somebody who owns a company and listens to this call and have a discussion and learn so you can make the best choices for your employee, your customers, and your consumers and your own people? That's what kind of makes this world cool now. Whereas before it was picking up a cell phone or an email, scheduling an appointment, getting on a plane. I love all of that, right? But I love sitting here with you and I together and just having a conversation too. And it's quick and it's efficient and we can all align and go about our business. So I think the business of conducting commerce and talking and speaking is moving much faster. So I would just recommend people lean into their jobs and what they own and people and technology and see what you want to be and set out a plan that's solvent to reach those goals.
I love that. What excites you most about the future of supply chains and Blue Yonder's role in shaping it?
Yeah. As a whole, that's really exciting to me. And again, I look at it from an operator's lens. What's so exciting is it's not just the platform and the end-to-end decisioning and insights, right? That brings cost savings. I think what's more exciting is it's going to bring new roles and jobs, right? It delights end-line customers and consumers. You find new ways to do things you didn't think about before and delight people, right? It's always prestigious when you win, a customer's platinum award and you've been a best supplier or technology company, right? And they care what you say and it's an open dialogue. I think what excites me the most as time goes on and I listen to our customers speak is saying, hey, we are going to go ahead and use that agent and change the configuration and start looking at our planning agents and our ops agents. But what's coming of that is it's not just releasing people. What we're looking at and doing for our business is they're looking to grow and say, okay, this frees up some resources. Here's what it's done for us in the pilot or where we're at. But what we're looking at is going into another business. And we need these resources to be able to do X, to be able to fund this new endeavor and growth, right? Because if you're not growing and you're not improving, you're dying. So I think just being alive at this time, right? And some folks are scared. You can take it on its other head and flip it and say, hey, this is what the tech's doing and it's getting faster. Look at beyond data scientists. Look at these influencer jobs. Look at these new transportation roles being created in terms of how to improve, get better. It's changing, right? It keeps digitizing and changing and adjusting. So I think if you look at it from that lens, as I listen to the customers and just being excited, right? It's not just turn it on and we did it. It's, hey, we want to do this now and we want to talk to the suppliers now and we want to make a better product. And it just keeps churning and churning to really start to connect that ecosystem as a whole in commerce globally. I think that's cool.
Yeah. If you could describe Blue Yonder's mission in one sentence or maybe even one word, what would it be?
Okay, this is cheesy. Rocket ship. Corey's been saying it for years. We're on the rocket ship. It already blasted off. It's beyond Earth now. And I know it's cheesy and I don't care.
It's not cheesy at all. I love it. I didn't expect that. Rocket ship. Okay. All right. For our audience, just speak to just the people who just looking to, for personal development. We always love to share advice here. What's one kind of golden nugget or jewel you would leave with our audience? People who want to do what you do or would love to, learn about supply chains or, create, different things in supply chains. What advice would you kind of give them and leave them with?
Yeah. What I would do and carry in the footsteps that I did use LinkedIn as your friend. Follow people, not because it's cool, because you're going to learn, get a mentor, read everything you can get your hands on. If you're not a great reader, you can throw it into ChatGPT and have it summarized for you. You put the role in that you want to be and say, this is where I'm at. What are the most important things I need to take from this piece, this insight? And again, you develop a network and a brand, right? You're authentically engaging with audiences as yours do. I care. Here's why, right? You support people. That is the easiest way to create the path on where you want to go. You'll have some people that will actively participate in your development. You'll have some that may ignore you. You don't look back. You move forward and you just keep removing hurdles, right? It's all online. It's in front of us. It isn't at the library anymore. It's all right here. So it's really, I'm a big believer, anybody with a plan can go anywhere they want to be.
Yeah. And any final thoughts for customers or future customers after they hear this? What would you like to let them know?
Sure. Number one, I appreciate your time today, right? It's always a pleasure, not just yours, but anybody who took the time out on the podcast to listen. But I would love to dive further and have a conversation with you, whether you want to talk about operations, AI, machine learning, really anything in the retail manufacturing space. I can also help out and direct you to the right folks, but always looking to grow. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Marie Jonkman, and I appreciate your time.
Marie, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. I appreciate it. Looking forward to much success for Blue Yonder and yourself. And I really thank you for your time today. Thank you so much again.
No problem. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Hustle fam, we are out. All right, guys, if you love Truck and Hustle and you love the interviews and the information that we're providing week to week, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. All right, Hustle fam.